To get started, go to the LYNEports.com page. From here, you can click on the Login button if you are not already logged in. Once you clicked on your project page, a map will show up with a search bar. So I can click on the map to view my location and hide the search bar. To navigate the interface, you have the projects menu located on the right, the toolbars found on the left, and the main buttons positioned at the top. So let's start by adding a location. Go to the toolbar and click on Add Project. Click on the map to select a location, assign a name to the location and save it, and the new location will be added to the project menu and the pin will be located on the map. To move your project pin, you can click on the Move button. Select the pin you want to move and move your pin to a desired location. A prompt will ask whether to move only the pin or all the associated elements, which we will cover in a later stage. Next, let's learn how to measure a distance. First, click on the Distance tool, left-click on the starting point, then left-click on the destination point to measure the distance, and a pop-up will show you the distance between those 2 points. Please note that the miles are not in aeronautical miles. To zoom and search, you could use the zoom features. The next thing we want to do is to create a network. Make sure that you have at least 2 projects with 2 pins. To connect the project pins, using the network connection, adjust the network distance by modifying the input value. Move the pins to update the network, and you can enable or disable the network connection by clicking on the network button. If you want, you can also convert the distance units between kilometers and miles. You can also use the map adjustments to adjust the view to north or to maximize the view to fit the frame, and change the pin colors from the project menu by right-clicking on the project to change its color. You can also rename, duplicate, or delete the project that you created. You can switch between different map styles by clicking on your preferred map style, such as satellite, light, or street, or render. You can also click on the airspace map to enable a 3D view of the airspace, volumes, and airspace constraints and structures. You can rotate, zoom, and navigate the view for a better visualization. To filter the airspace elements, use the toggles available in the airspace settings so you can choose which elements to display and adjust accordingly. You could also adjust the opacity level for clearer visualization. If needed, you could also switch between 2D and 3D view for the airspace. To visualize the land use data, first switch to any non-airspace map style, for example, a render, satellite, or street. Then, enable the land use data from the main buttons to see the land zoning and classification relevant to your project. If you plan to use Line AI, you can use LYNEports AI to assist in identifying potential landing locations or obtaining relevant insights. This tool can analyze geographic and infrastructural data to provide tailored recommendations. First, you need to open the Line AI panel within the main button in the application. Enter a query, for example, suggest a zip code location in California or in Mountain View suitable for Whisk eVTOL aircraft landings. The more specific you are, the better the answer will be. Line AI will generate a list of zip codes and areas based on factors such as urban planning, airspace, infrastructure compatibility, or demand. Review the suggested locations and refine your query if needed. Use these recommendations to make informed decisions on potential landing sites. Next, let's analyze the wind roses at your selected location. You can view the nearest wind stations and obtain windrose data. Open the wind station button in the main menu panel to display available wind stations on the map. Lower your view to have a better visibility on where are the nearest wind stations. Those are the icons in blue. You could also use the Measure Distance tool to determine the distance between your project location and the nearest wind station. This helps ensure you are selecting the most relevant wind data. Once you have identified the closest wind station, click on the wind station marker to open a detailed windrow's information. This data will display wind frequencies, which can be very useful in optimizing your vertiport layout and flight paths. If needed, compare multiple wind stations in your region to find the one that best represents the wind conditions for your project. Alright, let's move to creating and building our landing aerodrome. For that, open the project and click on Edit Project. A default geometry will appear at the selected and added pin location. This Edit Project page includes a toolbar that is on the left side, main menu that is on the top side, and parameter menu that is on the right side. To modify the default geometry's parameters, like adding elements such as lights, safety area, aircraft models, we can click on the geometry that was created and play around with the parameters to change the shape form. There is also a right menu for each geometry where more relative geometries and data can be added to it, like adding or removing markers, lights. We can move into adding a landing surface. For that, we can click on Add Landing Surface. We could move the landing surface by clicking the keyboard shortcut M or click on the Move button icon next to the geometry layer. You can adjust the landing surface shape by using the parameters, and you can copy the characteristics from landing surface 1 to landing surface 2 if you have two surfaces that were added. For that, you can add another landing surface, which will be our landing surface 2. You can select landing surface 1. To ensure that you have selected landing surface 1, you can click on Hide or Unhide, which is the I button, to confirm the selection. Use the Copy button to replicate the attributes, and then select landing surface 2 to paste the attributes onto it. Make sure that there is compatibility. For example, the characteristics from a landing surface cannot be copied onto a taxiway or a geometry. They can only be copied between the landing surfaces. You can continue by adding taxiways, shapes, 3D volumes, and flight paths. Experiment with different design elements and adjust the sliders to fine-tune the landing pad and the aerodrome. We can also overlay the airspace map over the aerodrome that has been created to check the alignment with the airspace. We can also identify the nearest wind stations to align the flight paths with the wind directions. You can click on the Line AI icon and then click on the report icon within the AI chat. Here we will use AI and create AI-generated reports to summarize our aerodrome design. You can add any additional details within the chat to refine the report answer. You can write, generate me a report for my specific location, which in my case it's at JFK Airport. Please allow for a few minutes for the report generation to be completed. We could also use this time to draw buildings or download project information. For that, you can click on the draw icon to add a building near your landing design. You can do that by clicking on the map, then click enter to finalize your geometry layout. You will see that being added within your building layer. And during this time, we have just generated everything that we need for our aerodrome, including the report, and we can move to the next step, which is simulating. For that, we can click on the Simulate button in the Parameters menu. The simulation page, once opened, it will contain a parameter menu. This has the coordinates and fan controls, and we also have the toolbar menu. This includes the adjusting model configuration and the simulation controls. To add fans, you can click on the plus sign to add more fans. Those fans are the points out of which the particles will be emitted from. You can move the fans to your preferred location relative to the aircraft. In this case, I will be creating 4 fans where I will be placing each fan on every wing on the aircraft. After this step is completed, we can adjust the orientation and direction of how the fans will be emitted from the aircraft. We can do that by playing around with the sliders from the sim control panel. And you can turn on and off the fans using the right menu on the sim control. Lastly, let's create our flight paths for the aircraft simulation. LYNEports has a default 3 coordinates that create a polyline. You can go ahead and delete the existing coordinates in the coordinate menu so we can create our own path. For that, you can click anywhere on the map to add your first coordinate. You will see that being added also in your coordinate panel. You can continue by adding multiple coordinates on the map to create your path. That path will be the path that the aircraft will move along. Once you're satisfied with the path that you've created, you can modify the longitude, latitude, and altitude values to match the desired heights and elevations that you would like the aircraft to follow. Once you have everything in place regarding your flight path, you can go to the simulation control and scroll down to start the simulation. In order to adjust the aircraft orientation, you can rotate the aircraft using the rotate slider or use the keyboard shortcut R and E keys to rotate the aircraft. You can also adjust the speed from the speed slider or also use shortcut S to increase the speed or D to decrease the speed. If you want to follow the aircraft during the simulation, you can go back to the sim control and click on the camera icon. That will follow the aircraft. You can also record a video of the simulation by clicking on the record button. And you can also change the particles colors using the paint palette from gradient to white or from white to gradient. By following these steps, you can effectively create, edit, and simulate any aerodrome that you're planning using LYNEports. Please feel free to reach out if you have any feature requests that you would like to include in LYNEports or to let us know if you have any questions. Thank you.